All right, welcome Peel21st to our third session. We're going to be looking at Google Forms. So just a quick introduction. I'm Tina Zita, I'm an ITRT, and beside me down there is another ITRT. Maybe he wants to introduce himself.
Not really. Everyone's
Not
seen.
really.
I am back.
Jay's back for this session, and then we have two fellow Peel21st folks that are joining us. Jonathan, do you just want to tell them where you're from and what you do? Not that you were in the fancy article this week.
It's only the Mississauga News. I teach grade 6 at Ray Lawson Public School.
Cool. And we have Victor with us as well.
I teach phys ed at Louise Arbour Secondary School.
Awesome. So just for the flow today, we're going to try to do an overview in 5 minutes, and Jay said he's going to turn off my mic if I don't stay to 5 minutes. And then Victor and Jonathan are going to share a little bit about how they use the tool, and we'll take your questions as it's going along. We'll be following Peel21st for your questions, and we know they're in a couple other spots as well. So can I share my screen yet?
Yeah.
There we go. So just Jay and Amit already talked about the fact that they, does it look okay, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So Jay and Amit already talked about Google Drive. So there's a couple ways we can get into Google Form, either straight from our Google Drive, it's hiding down there under Google Forms, or you can just go straight to Google Forms and start a new blank one. I love Google Forms because they don't require kids to log in, and they work on any device even without an app. So where a lot of the other tools we've talked about, Forms actually don't require that. So we have just our features here where we can add in our title and our description. As we go along, one of the cool things is we have lots of different ways to add questions in, and that's where our little panel here is awesome. So as I add a new question, I can click here on the drop-down menu to change to a variety of different types. So even if we're doing a exit ticket and we want to say, how do you feel about technology, we can almost do a bit of a value line, saying scared to death, computer whiz, and getting them to come on in. Lots of different options there when you're adding a question. Even things like checkboxes, if we're asking, what apps have you tried out? And lots of quick ways of just adding in those ideas that we're wanting to get. This is a checkbox. That means kids can actually choose more than one option. We have multiple choice. We have a paragraph option. We have a grid, which is really helpful. So when we were talking about asking a bunch of questions, having the grid option just makes it seem a little less intimidating than having 20 questions go down the way. Now, if I was doing this with kids and I wanted to make sure the first one maybe was them adding their name, so let's do it right here. Have them add their name in. So I'm going to make that a short answer. I'm going to make that question required because they have to answer that question before they submit it. Now, to enhance your form, we have these tools over here where we can add text. We can bring in images. So if I wanted to have an image that kind of helps set the tone for some of our kids, it just helps activate some of that prior knowledge or help sets the stage. We can drop that in. We can also bring in a video if we were doing a flipped classroom setup, and sections and lots of really fun, cool stuff. Everything is changeable, so I can move things around by just using that little handle there, and we can rearrange the items the way we want. How am I doing for time? Not at 5 minutes yet, right?
You can go 1 minute.
1 minute. I'm big about looks, so I can come in here. 1 minute's not fair. I can come in here and change. It's like lagging on me. I can come in here and change the design and give it a different feel. I can preview it to see what the kids would see. But most importantly, in my little settings wheel, I can actually decide if this is just for people within Peel or anyone. Anyone means the kids don't need to sign in. I can also let them see summary of responses as they go along. To send, just remember that you can email it like the strategies other folks have talked about. What I like is you can get that link, which means I can make a little QR code for kids to access the forum, or we can even embed it in our website or our kid blog, any tool like that that we're doing. And last tip, I think I'm doing okay. The last tip here is if you see the little 3 dots, that means you have more options to explore and to check out. So that's Google Forms in 5 minutes.
That was good.
I'm pretty impressed with myself right now. Let me let me get out of my screen. Sorry, just have to change my windows here. Just 1 second. And there we go. Do you see me again? So that was Google Forms in 5 minutes, and we're going to hear a bit of how Victor's using them in his program. I know I just was so excited when I saw the ideas on the Twitter feed, so we asked him to come and join and share.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. All right, so I'm going to get right into the screen share because I don't have a lot of time. So hopefully I can figure this out. Okay. All right, can you see my screen yet?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to show you 3 examples that I have. The first one here is a student sports survey. So the way we started doing things this year in our phys ed program is giving students more of a choice about what activities and sports we do. So at the start of every semester, we created this survey, and we broke the sports down into 4 categories: so target games, and we got netball, and then there's 2 others. And for sports that aren't necessarily ones that they might know, like we have little videos that we embedded within the Google form, and then students just select which ones they're interested in. So here I've said select 3 from the list below, and I set the question so that they have to pick 3. So if they don't, then they won't be able to submit the form. And then once they've filled it out, I really like this part. I can look at all the responses in the analytics section. So there's nice graphs to look at. It makes things very clear and easy to understand. So I can just share this with the class, and away we go. And we can focus on these sports throughout the semester. The next one here is fitness testing results. So we do fitness testing in our program once a month, and just to sort of have students gauge where they're at and if they're improving or not. So here they just put in a bunch of results. And what I've actually done with this, and this is actually probably a topic for another Hangout, but I'll make it really quick. So after they submit the form, there's a Google Sheet produced, and I use an add-on called Autocrat to push all of this information onto individual student Google Docs. So this is what one might look like here. So basically you'll see like all these little merge tags. I'll just try to highlight one. And so as long as you match those up when you're using that add-on, you get all the results put into a Google Doc, which I then email to the students, and they get their results. And then the last one here is a formative quiz I used for basketball, a recent basketball unit. And so the students complete the quiz. And one thing I'll show, it's kind of neat actually, here's an image for a labeling diagram, but down below, I'm really excited about these, is some GIFs. So one thing that's pretty cool is there's an extension in Chrome that you can use called Make GIF. And so it integrates nicely with YouTube. And so I just find a short video, and I can take out a piece of it and save it as basically as an image, and I can embed that within the quiz or whatever it is I'm doing on the Google form, and then students will have a nice little image to look at that moves. Super cool. So once they've done the quiz, again, all of the results are basically put. I'm actually going to go back to student submission here, onto a Google Sheet. So as a teacher, it's kind of hard to see or to grade basically something like this, but another really awesome add-on is called Flubaroo. You can find the add-on section at the top. So I use Flubaroo to then grade the quizzes, something like this. So basically you can see all the marks the students got, and even questions where students may have struggled, so you can address that issue later on, and you really get a good gauge on their learning, so that when they go to write, say, possibly a test later on, you've got this to work with. So I really like that. It's awesome. And that's it for me.
I love all the ideas. As first of all, I need to figure out how to do that GIF thing. That's absolutely awesome. But I love all of the student voice that's embedded within the forms, right? I think that's one of the benefits or some of the biggest power is having that immediate feedback with the results and being able to change our instruction or make those quick changes in our practice from day to day. Cool. Jonathan, you want to?
Okay, so I'll share what I do in my classroom, and I'll start with some of the grade 2 stuff that I've done, and then move into grade 6. So let me just share my screen. Hopefully an entire screen. Do you see what I see?
Yes.
Okay. So with the grade 2s, what's really cool is doing like some quick exit tickets out the door. So talking about time and inserting that picture. Now this is the old form. So this is what the old form looked like, but you can do the same thing in the new form. But basically, it was the picture's inserted. What time is it? And then when you just like Victor had with the sheet, here's their answers. And then I also used Flubaroo to do a quick grading, which is amazing to do because it's quick and easy to use. Talking about that any kid can, anyone really has access to a form if you send them the link, you can actually insert a password so that it moves on to the next page to the questions if the kids actually know the password. So this is something I learned at the GAF Summit. So basically just ask a short question, and in the dot menu you can have data validation, and you can actually insert a certain text so it won't move on unless this is the actual thing that they put in. And then you can move on to your next section, which is just adding a page break, and then you can move into the actual test or quiz, which is actually a cool way of making sure only your class answers the form that you're learning about. What I've been doing lately, though, for my grade 6s is using forms for their assessment projects. So I've gone gradeless in my classroom, which means that I need some sort of way to assess how students are doing. So I just created a basic form that asks them what their 3 goals, a couple spelling mistakes, but this is an old form. What their 3 goals in science are, what do you think they learned, how do you know you've done this, and at the end I've asked overall, how do you assess yourself? I've actually started using a another extension called Doc Appender, which allows me to, instead of name and their short answer is there'll be a multiple choice of their names, and then they just click on it and it automatically goes to their document. The other one that you probably, if you're going to be doing assessment, making sure that you have edit the responses, which means that if they don't have time to finish their assessment form, they can always go back in and to do it all over again. I think that's pretty much all the stuff I've done. So let me unshare my screen. Oh, I'm still sharing. Stop sharing. There we go.
So, Jay, do you see any questions out there? I think we don't have any. We got off the hook.
Yeah, we're pretty good here.
We are just so amazing.
Sorry, the one thing I'll say is if for those who are following along, tweet using the hashtag Peel21st if you want to. You can add a question to the event page, or there's a Q&A app built right into this if you want to use that as well to ask questions.
So looking maybe even at some of the other groups that we've used the Google Forms with, like we use Google Forms even as a coordinator RT session. So to even just kind of drive our conversation on the spot. So it was kind of cool to use it in that way, just to give people that individual accountability, but then lead into a shared conversation. The other thing that we've done with Google Forms in the past is using it with parent groups. So being able to use that link and not have people sign in, we could get information from parents similar to what we saw in Victor's, if it was even topics that they were interested in or attitudes that they had about math or technology, being able to capture those in the forms as well. The one really cool idea, I don't know if you tried it, Jonathan, is that the Choose Your Own Adventure stories with Google Forms.
Yes, you can use that, or you can use slides for that.
Yeah, I would chintz out and go with slides, just personally. But it was really cool just to even see how forms, we always see it as kind of that assessment or the linear format of questions, but you can really, kind of like you were showing, use it as a way to kind of push kids through some of the data and the information. I think it would probably even chunk it better for some of our kids that would be overwhelmed with too many questions on a page. Being able to do the sections would be a cool strategy. Did you guys want to talk a bit more about the add-ons?
There's a couple of add-ons that the problem is that because forms links to sheets, the add-ons that we predominantly use are in our sheets, but there is one called Formule in Forms, which allows you to basically when someone submits a form, you can actually send an email automatically to anyone you would care to do. I haven't tried it per se, but I know it's out there. And of course, Flubaroo and DocAppender has been the two that I've been using predominantly with forms and sheets.
Yeah, and I can mention something about Autocrat as well. As I said, I've been using that with fitness testing. I actually want to move towards DocAppender because we do 5 fitness tests throughout each semester. So what I get is basically one Google Doc per test, and so they have 5 separate docs. So I think it would be maybe a little more efficient if we could put it all into one. And I think that's possible with DocAppender, so I need to play around with it a little bit more. But that's not to say Autocrat's not awesome. It's still awesome. It's actually really good for creating certificates, for example. So someone goes to a workshop, or you have kids complete some amazing feat in phys ed class. You can easily have them fill out the quick form, and then they get this really quick certificate after.
I need to play with that a bit more because I know Surya and myself were playing a little bit at Larkspur about trying to figure out a way. In her situation, she has several different classes, and she was working on a rubric assessment. And we were thinking forms would be a nice, easy way because she could just have the form in front of her, and then after submitting can just resubmit another entry versus a document and constantly having to copy the document. But like you guys said, the sheets, which for those people that don't know, Google Forms is kind of the survey option that Google Apps for Education has, and then Sheets is your Excel comparative. So you can use Sheets all by itself, but Forms automatically pushes all of your data not only to those beautiful data recaps, but also into a spreadsheet that you can manipulate and kind of play with. So it sounds like that may be an option to get some of that information and put it into a format that she could then share with teachers. Because she had the spreadsheet, but then when you wanted to manipulate it, it was kind of hard to share it with anybody, whether it's sharing it with the student or sharing it back.
So we do have a question here. One of the viewers is asking about using forms when you don't have one-to-one. Or basically, I mean, is this something that you really need one-to-one in order to really take advantage of forms for?
Forms.
Go for it, Jonathan.
I was going to say Forms works on any device, so your phone, iPad, Chromebooks. And you can do it with one computer, and you can do it with one-to-one. So it really doesn't matter what you have.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
I was going to say the same thing. Even if I just had one iPad in the classroom or we had a computer, we could set it up as a station that they explore. We could have it as a QR code that keeps getting passed around. It could even be what they do when they first come in the door that day, even if we're just doing a check-in of what do you want to learn or which of these books sounds most interesting. It sounds really cheesy, but it could be a quick, they submit their answers and the next person that comes in just hits it. And that's why I think Forms out of all of the tools is probably the easiest one to start with if you don't have a large collection of devices, or if you're looking for something that's very device neutral, if you're worried about the apps, some of those elements. I don't know if you guys agree.
And I was going to say, add to that, Victor, I mean, you being in the gym, I know that's not exactly where you're all the time, but being a phys ed teacher, I mean, you're dealing with this, I don't know, not lack of devices, but you're not in the same environment that many classroom teachers are in with regards to devices. And using Forms, I guess maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, sure. We're actually really lucky at my school. Like they're on top of the technology. So this year we got a class set of iPads on a cart. So and up until that point, what I did was we had like 4 department iPads. So I bring those in, maybe use a QR code, and they would just link to the forms through that, or possibly using their own devices. But now with that cart, it makes it so much easier. But as Tina said, like you don't necessarily need one-to-one. If you have just a couple, you can set up a station, and I've done that too, and that worked just fine.
Just taking a look through other questions with regards to forms. I guess one of the things is there's the new Google 2.0, I guess, of forms. And I noticed, Victor, you were showing some from, I guess, version 1.0, and then Jonathan, you 2.0. I guess maybe we could talk to that just a little bit.
I think we showed you the newer version. I think they've switched everybody over to the newer version now, right?
You can switch back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, one of the things I do like about the newer version is you have that panel that we showed you with the different tools. And that really makes it a lot simpler just to quickly drop some items in. I was really happy when I found that photo option because I didn't like the plain colored forms. For me, I use them a lot in PD sessions, whether it's to get feedback from folks or whether it's just even getting input on what we're going to explore. And just the fact that I can change the colors or I can change the image just helps give me a little signal that I'm on the right form. I don't know if other people are like me and I accidentally get on the wrong form and then mess stuff up sometimes. So that design piece really lets me differentiate. So I think if you are used to Google Forms, the first version, it's just refocusing yourself on those few tools we showed, but the options are the same. I love the fact that they've added the pictures and the video. I think lots of opportunities with Flipped Classroom. Even with the idea of some open-ended exploration in the classroom. If we had small groups checking out different videos based on, I'm just thinking one of the activities we once did for book trailers was we had them look at different book trailers and then we co-created the success criteria together. This way we could have had some focused questions with each of the book trailers to help guide us to some of that success criteria. So being able to put the video and just have 1 or 2 questions underneath, a great way to kind of guide their work and not have them go to many different places.
It's a good way to flip the classroom as well, where if you wanted to show a video beforehand and have a quick question A afterwards, you can just send the form instead of giving them the video link, so they watch the videos and then they can answer the question. Mm-hmm. But and what I do find the difference though between the old form and the new form is if you are using scripts, you may find it easier to use it in the old forms. They do have in the new one the add-on section, but for some of the script writing, it doesn't work too well yet.
We experienced that with OCMOOC. We had, when people were signing up for AwesomeMOOC for the Innovators Mindset book club, we actually used a Google form to collect the information. But yeah, one of the scripts started saying that people were from random places and deleted half the info. But that's where what Tracy talked about earlier about revision history, thank goodness, yay moments, you have that in the Sheets option as well. So all of the Google apps, other than a form per se, but any of the creation apps have that revision history option, so we can always go back in time if somebody comes and manipulates our data and messes stuff up. They didn't. It was our mess up, but that's okay.
And I guess one of the other things, I think a lot of people immediately look to forms with regards to quizzing, which is totally useful. But maybe each of us could kind of speak to their favorite use of form that may not be a typical quiz.
I just realized that I forgot to mention one thing that I did, and I like using forms for this. You can actually link it to a map and actually insert the questions. So hang on, give me 1 second. I know there's not time, but I'll share the screen here. So this is the map that I had here, and I asked the... No, that's not the question I asked. I have too many things open at once.
Look at all those tabs.
Sorry. Basically, I asked the question of where are you from, and then you can actually insert a layer into the map itself, and it pinpoints exactly where people are from. So I've used this for where we met people, how we where our surveys came from. It's a great way, instead of using quizzes, it's a great way to interact with the outside world.
I used it the week before March break with a grade 8 class. We were actually, instead of me doing an overview of all of the apps, we actually gave them 3 examples and then let them vote on what tool they wanted to have demonstrated to them, as well as giving them the option to give us ideas of what they thought could work. So they brought in Minecraft and they brought in Mindomo and other tools that they were using. So just a way of kind of driving our conversation. And Janice Robertson on Twitter had a great idea of using it for kids to choose a book for lit circles. So after they watch the brief introductions, choosing lit circles. And I was just thinking, even for Force of Reading, lots of opportunities there to kind of even get them to sorry, we have another question. Just getting them to maybe make some reflections on the books or voting. Jim Kardash was talking about how could we use it as administrators. I think what we've done with it sometimes as ITRTs is using it to help drive choices, kind of like Twitter polls, of what people are interested in. Something as simple as a book club, being able to put in a quick video about the books that you're exploring and then allowing folks to vote.
Yeah, one of the things that I often tell administrators is any task where you normally send out an email and then you have to get 100 emails back and curate all those responses. This is what forums is meant for, such as what's your what day is your final evaluation going to be on, or from a secondary perspective. What day is your final evaluation going to be on, or what do you want regarding a certain PL opportunity, things like that. It's really a way to avoid those 100 emails you have to go back through and curate.
We've also used it for school surveys to talk to parents about things, wanting to know what their opinions are about how things are run. We've collected data on kids' attitude surveys for math and reading. There's a lot that you can do with forms as an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
Victor, we cut you off there. Is there
Sorry.
anything you wanted to add to the conversation before we end?
You touched on most of it, but as it's been said, like it's really about gathering data and then being able to analyze it later. I've used, as I said, sports surveys with my classes, but not just that. Like I run intramurals, so just getting a finger on what students want to do for various sports that we run at lunch. So I've done surveys through that as well, posted QR codes around the school, or put a link up through our Twitter, and students would vote on the sports they want to play. I actually this year was part of a Healthy Schools committee, and actually it's still ongoing, but it's the OFIA Healthy Schools certification process. It's kind of similar to Eco Schools, and one of the things we needed to do was get some insight in terms of what are the priority health topics are people in our school, so staff, students, parents, community organizations, what do they think is important? So we did a whole big survey that went out to students, parents, staff, as well as outside community agencies, and we got lots of great information that was then very simple to analyze through the analytics section from that Google form. So as I said, it's great for gathering data and pretty easy to look at after.
So, and I think that's probably how we'll end it off. I think that's the real benefit of Google Forms is, one, being able to collect that information in often providing students more ownership and more voice in that individual accountability or group accountability, but then also being able to get that immediate data feedback, but then lots of opportunities to go a lot deeper with the add-ons and with the Sheets option. So hopefully you had fun with us. There's the last hangout starts right now. Victor's going to probably jump ship for Google Classroom. See you guys.
Bye.